welcome to another video of the Swiss Riviera Toastmasters Club. My name is Marcelo Fernandez, and today we are going to have our past president, Melitta. Melitta has been with Toastmasters for at least 14 years. So let's welcome Melitta. Melitta, hello, how are you doing?
Hi, Marcelo. I'm great, thanks.
It is great to have you here. It has been already 14 years that you were in the Toastmasters community. Can you explain us a little bit how that started with you? I mean, how did you learn about Toastmasters? How was it for you?
Yeah, sure. I kind of feel like I've had two distinct Toastmaster clubs. So I haven't been in Toastmasters 14 years. I had a big gap in the middle. But when I started 14 years ago, I was working full-time in a private bank in Geneva. I was the head of communications there. And I'd just been promoted to head of communications. And I had to start giving presentations across the group and workshops, and I was doing okay. And communications and marketing is my background, so I knew what I was putting together wasn't awful, but my personal presentation skills were something that I wanted to improve on. And I remember going to some conferences, and most of the people that get up and speak are really dull and boring, and then there's just those one or two people who are just amazing, and I wanted to be like one of those one or two people, but I just didn't know how to. So I started looking for ways to do that. And I'm an introvert. I'm not a natural person to stand up and be a showman or anything like that. So I thought, well, maybe if I went to a theatre club, it would help me build that confidence up a little bit. But it's at the same time, it wasn't. I couldn't really see myself on stage. It was a bit too scary. And then a friend found Toastmasters, and she said, oh, come along to this. I was like, oh no, it sounds really scary. There's going to be all these clever people in a room talking about clever and intellectual topics that I know nothing about. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's for me. And she said, no, I don't think it is like that. And she goes, and anyway, how else are you going to improve? So I was like, okay, you have a point. So I went along, and yeah, I mean, I went to my first meeting, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see that it was a room full of very normal people. They had all ages. You had students, you had retired people, and everybody in between. And I'm from Wales, and we love stories in Wales, and that was something that really captured me. Was like, you just heard so many incredible stories from the prepared speeches and the impromptu stories that people came up with, and I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. So that was it. I was hooked.
Yes, it is always like that. You get hooked. You see all these people that think that they are known, that they were like training forever, like they're talented sometimes, which in fact is not necessarily like that. We all train for doing these speeches, but that's probably the first impression that many guests could be having at their first meeting. But for you, when you started as being a member, how was your start? Because it's not always like you go and shine. For you, how was your start in the Toastmasters, in this part?
As I said, I was very shy and introvert. So I didn't actually speak for probably about 6 months. In the meetings, everyone takes a role, and there's a role called timekeeper, where you just watch what people are doing and take note of the time, put a card up. So I volunteered to do that all the time, so that it looked like I was taking part, and no one would really notice that I hadn't spoken up yet, because you do have a vice president of education who is there making sure that everyone progresses nicely through their journey. So I was kind of like not just hiding from the aspect of like standing up and speaking, but also looking busy so that they didn't quite notice I hadn't said anything. But even during that time, even though I wasn't getting up and speaking myself, just from hearing other people's speeches and thinking to myself what I liked and what I would do differently in different speeches. So becoming a bit of a critical thinker myself, and hearing other people's evaluations helped me to already build my skills. So even though I wasn't actually standing up and speaking, when I was presenting at work, people started to come up to me at the end and asking me for tips. And I was like, really? And I wasn't really aware that I had changed anything, but I obviously had. And then when I was in meetings, because now I was in more senior meetings than I had been previously, and I found myself speaking up more, and I was able to structure my thinking more clearly as well. So before I would kind of contribute to meetings and I'd be talked over a lot of the time. But now, because I was being clearer, I was adding in my pauses and all these little things that I was picking up from Toastmasters, people would listen to me and they would respond to me as well. And that was like, this is new. It was great. But because of that, because I was more visible, I had a voice, people were listening, and I was gaining more support and credibility within the bank. I got another 2 promotions in the next 12 months. And I really believe that is thanks to Toastmasters. And over that time, I also set up a women's network within the bank as well, which was something that had been on my mind for a while, but I never really saw myself as someone that could be the leader of a group like that, the person that stands up and is visible and is I can't think of the word, the head of the, not
Yeah, like the
the face.
leader of the group. Yeah.
Yes, the face of the group. That's it. There's always has to be someone that is, who's welcoming everyone, who's introducing the speakers, who's getting things moving. And I could do that behind the scenes, but I never saw myself as a person who could be there at the front, standing up and speaking. And thanks to Toastmasters, I thought, well, maybe I could do that. And then I did start to speak at Toastmasters. I did start to speak and in this women's network that I started, and it really was this amazing roller coaster, and I just grew in confidence so much. And then my final promotion was to report directly to the CEO of a company, and for a woman in private banking who isn't in a banking role, that was unheard of. And so it really was testament to the power, the skills I was learning.
Totally, and I can clearly see what you're saying, because we try to be a bit more structured when we are talking in the Toastmasters. And when we're in the agenda, we learn also how to answer questions impromptu with the table topic. So there are many things that we learn by doing there. And when we were discussing before, Melita, and you said that also you had a big break because of the kids, which is completely understandable. And then it is like, I have the impression, like part 2 in your life with Toastmasters. How was this part of your life with Toastmasters after the kids?
Yeah, so I had the kids and I just didn't have the energy to go to Toastmasters anymore. And when my daughter was young, I started a communication consultancy. And so I was going into companies and advising them on their communication strategies, particularly around internal communications. And that was fine. And I didn't really need to do any speaking there. But then my business evolved and I became a business coach. So I was helping women to confidently build their own business. And as part of that, they had to speak up and demonstrate their value and connect with people through webinars and workshops and public speaking and networking and all these things. So I felt it was the right time to build my own skills back in that area as well. So I really wanted to start going to Toastmasters, but the nearest Toastmasters it wasn't that far away. It's like a 25-minute journey in the car, but just the logistics of that around the kids was just too difficult. And I remember having a conversation with the president of that club and asking him, well, maybe I should start a club locally. And then he said, oh, there's this lady who's doing that, and he put us in touch, and then I helped her to launch the program. I mean, she did most of it, I have to say, but I helped her to launch the Toastmasters in locally here in Vevey, where it was at the time. Now it was in Montreux, which is even easier for me because I've moved to Montreux.
Yes, and I mean, it's a bit like that, the story of the whole group that we had, like the story of the club. And also, what is interesting is that gave you also the opportunity to learn new skills, right?
Yeah, but this time it was different because, I mean, I was still shy and introverted, but this time I couldn't hide. So there was myself and Eliane and Simon and Anna, and we were the only members of the club at that time who knew what Toastmasters was. And yet we had, like, each time we had lots of new people coming, but if we didn't get up and speak, then no one else would get what this is. They would be like, it wouldn't be a public speaking club, it would be a like silent nod at each other and smile club, which isn't the same thing at all. So I had to show up every 2 weeks and take on a role, stand up and speak, and really participate to the max. Otherwise it wouldn't have taken off. And so this time, because I couldn't hide and I had to push myself out of my comfort zone consistently, I grew my confidence so much faster. And still, if I take on a role like Toastmaster of the evening, I'm still not great at that role. But I've learned it doesn't matter, as long as you get up and you are engaging and you work with the audience and you continue to practice those skills. It doesn't matter if you're not perfect. And I kind of like that. That's where our club started from, and it's never a perfect meeting as in like really slick and smooth, but it's always a perfect meeting that everyone feels welcome and they feel that they can contribute even from the very early stages. After they've just been to one or two meetings, they're invited to already take a role and try a speech or get involved. Well, even from being a guest they can get involved. And I really love that. And that pushing myself outside my comfort zone has really pushed me so much more and helped me to achieve more than I thought I could as well. So I thought it would help me just have that bit of confidence and refresh my skills so I could help my clients. But actually, I'm now speaking around the world on very large stages. I did an impromptu speech on a stage in front of 5,000 people in Manchester one time, and I just had the microphone thrust at me. I was like, oh, and I was able to deliver a comprehensive, like, 2-minute talk, and they actually filmed it and put it on YouTube because as a talk, which was kind of scary, but it really helped. And now I'm not just helping my clients with these skills, but I'm also now a TEDx speaker coach as well. So it's really helped me to develop so many amazing skills that has put me in places and given me opportunities that I never thought I would ever be in those positions at all. And it's been wonderful.
Well, it's really amazing and captivating to hear you, Melitta, like really passing all these stages in the whole, in your life, professional life, also with Toastmasters, the skills that you were learning everywhere that help you to get to where you are today and delivering a speech of 5,000 people with an impromptu in 2 minutes. That's quite impressive, actually. That's for sure. And could be quite scary too.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
Now, I don't know, the top of all these things that you are doing, you are also a mom, because we discussed about that a little bit before. And you were the only one person that brought the kids to Toastmaster sessions. So probably you can explain us a little bit how you are jungling with Toastmasters, being a mom, and all the business that you are doing. I don't know how you doing these things.
Yeah, I think very often people think of, like, we always hear this work-life balance, and it's like, well, there's work, and then there's a clear distinction between that and everything else that's going on in your life. But because I've built my business around my kids, it's always been a blend. They've always been involved in my business, even at a point where it's like having a baby on my lap while I'm writing up reports and writing articles and things. They've always been a part of what everything I've been doing. And I've seen how me building a business from home has really given them an entrepreneurial mindset. And I do all my training as well. And, I invest a lot in myself, self-development. And a lot of that I have to do watching videos while cooking. And so, of course, the kids are getting that as well, or listening to DVDs in the car. And so they're getting all of this self-development too. So it kind of made sense to me to involve them in Toastmasters as well. And sometimes I don't have a choice. Either I don't come or I bring my kids with me. But I think it's just such a enriching experience for them to, well, when they see me build my speech at home and practice it over and over, I film myself, I'm in the car practicing, and so they can see that it's not just something that happens, that you have to put the work in to get the result. And then they come and they see me deliver it live, and they get to see the audience, how they respond to that. So I think that already is important for them to see me learning and messing up as well, because I mess up a lot while I'm practicing. But I think it's also very powerful for them to see a whole group of adults learning trying new things, not always getting it right, supporting each other, giving each other feedback. I mean, everything we do at Toastmasters, I think it just gives them a whole different outlook about what learning is, and that it's not just you go to school to learn and then that's it. I think becoming a lifelong learner is so important, and for them to feel part of that is really wonderful. And my youngest, my eldest, she's a little bit timid. She's a bit like my first Toastmasters self. She prefers just to watch and listen to the stories, but the youngest has really jumped on board with this, and she's given speeches at school, she's given speeches at Toastmasters and won awards for it, and she really now she wants to be an animal behaviorist, but she also wants to have a YouTube channel and to be a TV presenter so she can share this message with others and help other people understand how they can make a difference to the environment. And I'm like, wow, she's 10, and this has been her thinking for a few years now, thanks to Toastmasters. It's opened up a whole new world of possibility for her, that other children wouldn't get that perspective. They wouldn't necessarily, if you see these people on TV, you wouldn't necessarily think at like 7 years old that that's what you could do. But having been exposed to the Toastmaster environment, she's like, yeah, well, why not? So yeah, I think it's just a wonderful experience for them as well as for me.
It is for everybody like a wonderful experience, because we all feel like this is like a playground. We're all having fun and we are learning in the process. And I see that it was very interesting to have your girls during the session. Sometimes they are really showing that confidence, and they know that we all make the errors, but it's like a playground. We really enjoyed those times. Thank you, Melita. Melita, we are going to the end of this video. Thank you very much for your time and for being here, and for all the experience that you brought to us during this video. Thank you very much, Melita.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And for everybody else, we are going to have a lot more videos in the future, but there is one that I owe you. Yes, a very important one, because we have been discussing with all the members, with all the people, and we forgot to tell you the story of the club. Melitta has said it a little bit how this started, but I think it's quite interesting to understand, and what does it mean to create a club in the Toastmasters community. And that's going to be the idea of the next video. So stay tuned, we are coming back. Thank you very much, and goodbye.